Hello, dear friends. Jakob here. I'm back after quite a while. It's been a busy time, moving house, starting kids in kindergarten, onboarding new clients, etc., etc. But here we are, and I would like to share some new stuff with you. Specifically, I have been working on a framework that specializes on service onboarding at scale. So it's not related to onboarding employees or onboarding applications. Rather, this is focused on onboarding entire service organizations onto your ServiceNow platform. This is something that I have found lacking so far, whereas the two before mentioned ways of onboarding, employee and application, they are well documented. But what do you do when you need to onboard from A to Z an entire service organization onto your ServiceNow instance? That is what I hope to assist you with today. So far, I have been working on this framework for some years, in fact, and I have had the pleasure of also leveraging the framework 3 times to varying degrees with clients. And today I would like to share this framework with you to see if it might be relevant to you and potentially a candidate for broader publication, for example, Now Create or the likes. Therefore, without no further ado, please allow me to share my screen, and I will go ahead and show you a bit about this onboarding framework. I have dubbed it Service Onboarding at Scale, or as the cool abbreviation also says, SOAS, Faster and Better Onboarding. I also used way too much time making fancy airplanes in PowerPoint. From 10,000 feet above, an executive summary. This framework here, as mentioned, all enterprises will be going through a service organization onboarding at one time or another. I am yet to find any standards for successfully doing so. So I'm proposing a modular, standardized way of doing this, allowing us to do it in a scalable fashion. We are able to do it with multiple service organizations at once, which can be especially relevant if, for example, you have a greenfield ServiceNow platform where you need to onboard a rather large enterprise with many different service organizations embedded in. To achieve success with this framework, we do need a level of governance. That is not to say that we need entirely mature governance to use this framework. Using this framework itself is also a way to achieve increased and mature governance. One of the main components in this framework is the shift left methodology, which we are familiar with from IT service management in general, where we would like to increase self-service. That is exactly what we want to do here as well. But whereas in IT service management, it relates to enabling the user to help themselves with resolving their own issues and requests. Here, what we want to shift left is the homework associated with delivering all of the contextual knowledge that a platform team of ServiceNow would be dependent on to achieve a successful onboarding of an entire service organization. As you can see on the triangle, and as mentioned before, we're dealing with this service organization, and as defined in the terminology section, this is service organization and its services. Moving them onto the ServiceNow platform in a scalable fashion. Why we have this framework, or why am I proposing this framework? Onboarding service organizations to a ServiceNow platform or any other platform can take a long time. There is a tendency for lift and shift to occur, meaning that we are moving all of our dirty old habits from one legacy platform onto this new beautiful ServiceNow platform, hereby accruing a lot of technical debt and making it cumbersome and not according to the industry-leading practices, decreasing its operability, supportability, performance, security, and so on. Additionally, we have a tendency to include our core resources of the ServiceNow platform a bit early in the process, hereby overburdening them as they also need to operate the platform. We have lacking standards, hence this framework, and varying quality levels, also primarily as a byproduct of the lacking standards. We have 3 phases to the SOAS framework: inquiry, service mapping, and implementation. In the inquiry phase, we are looking to receive and process requests for onboarding. The scaling methods we're using to make this efficient is self-service, so a shift-left mechanism where we are making knowledge about the ServiceNow platform, its sense of excellence, governance processes, upgrade, release, maintenance schedule, etc., apparent and available to all potential prospects that would like to be a part of this platform here. We could be leveraging a catalog item for standardized intake and directing any requesters to this form. And we are trying to delegate the initial assessment to non-core platform members to drive. So this might be business analysts or project coordinators that have had a degree of upskilling to allow them to deflect the work from the very often burdened platform team and its core resources. In the service mapping, we're trying to mature the scope as well as the services to have them defined and configured inside of the ServiceNow instance. This is very closely related to the common service data model. However, it is not to say that the SOAS framework is identical or equal to the common service data model. The common service data model and its service definition and mapping is but one part of the A to C service onboarding journey. We are using a scaling method here, shifting left via a standardized intake form for common contextual knowledge, as mentioned before, that can be related to service level management, support, tiers, escalation paths, service definitions, products, foundational data, etc., that the onboarding organization would see as prerequisite for functioning effectively on the ServiceNow platform post its onboarding. The idea here is that instead of using plentiful times and resources on workshops, we are trying to give them homework where we maybe can get to maybe 75% of the data and contextual knowledge that the platform needs to onboard the organization, where the last 25% then can be followed up and qualified in workshops and so on. In implementation, we're seeking to enable the onboarding organization, hereby deflecting and deterring a shift and left behavior where we understand the platform and its current configuration before we start making requirements and demands to it. The scaling method here is that the lead architect that mainly operates in the service mapping phase has packaged everything nicely up to a delegated architect or lead developer of the sorts. And that person then with his or her associated team is able to continue the ongoing implementation, workshops, and work testing and so on, with specific quality gates throughout to ensure that the intended direction of the service onboarding is adhered to by the lead architect. This is just to show you an example of a visualization of how this can happen in parallel, where we can have several streams of service organizations that are looking to onboard the organization, and we have different, they might fall through along the way, which emphasizes the need to shift left also the initial inquiry and assessment to potentially business analysts instead of, well, it's not the lead architect, but the lead architect and his or her associated core platform team resources. And finally, for the delegation to happen in the traditional implementation streams, and to the very right, there is an important iteration icon here, which is there to emphasize that it's really needed to use this as a framework you grow with and mature with as an enterprise. While this is a good baseline, it's not a golden cookie cutter that will fit on any organization. So you will need to redefine it over time to fit your specific organizational needs. This here is but one of the slides. You can see detailing the individual steps related to one stage of a phase. So the initial inquiry stage of the inquiry phase. There are specific outcomes defined and steps needed to take here. Some of the more ambiguous or not as clear steps, such as what does onboarding knowledge pertain or what should it contain? Stuff like this, I am building out in the appendix of this specific presentation here. So without going through too much more, I just want to emphasize that such a step-by-step activity screen I've made for all of the subsequent phases and stages as well, with additional appendix material building on also the official resources wherever possible of ServiceNow to help along the way. So my ask to you is this relevant to you? Is this something that you might benefit from having it more publicly available and now create on the mic? Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this video here, and I hope you have an excellent day. Bye-bye.